Okay, we're live. We're gonna be live, and the show starts in 1 minute. In the meantime, what are you giving away?
I'm giving away this from Amsoil 10mm socket. It's very durable. In case of emergency, break glass.
Oh yeah. Russell just sent those to us the other day.
So cute.
What else? It is. It is. What else have you decided to give away?
I'm gonna give away.
Oh, you can give away some stickers with it too if you want. Amsoil stickers.
Oh yeah, that'll be nice. And then for what's the word?
Yeah, I'm going to give Amsoil stickers and Vintage Motocross Q&A stickers.
Okay, good.
But we have some extra stickers too.
I need a pen.
Yeah, you can have this one. I have to start the show though.
Well, give me the pen.
No, I'm going to start the show first. You're going to have to wait.
Be that way.
Where was? Oh, here we are.
I'm Jerry Maddox.
And I'm Ryder Maddox in sunny California.
And you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, hosted by Joe Abbate.
Good evening, everyone. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and I am your host, Joe Abbate. Thank you for joining me tonight. If you're watching the show, tell us where you're watching the show from. What state, what city, what's interesting about the place where you live. Don't forget to keep sharing it, too, because a little bit later on, we're going to have a viewer appreciation prize, a little giveaway. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to bring on the lovely and enchanting Susie right now. She's going to tell you a bit more about it. Susie,
Yeah.
why don't you do this first, babe?
What?
Why don't you tell everybody what's the latest update on your situation
So
here?
tomorrow's 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping the doctor will relieve me of any walking assistance devices.
Please relieve me.
Right.
Let me
It
go.
would be such a big blessing.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah. Without a walker or a scooter.
Yes, to get that boot off of you so it doesn't feel like I'm sleeping with Fred Gwynn. Yeah, that'd be great.
But the boot has to remain for another 2 weeks.
All right. Well, look, it's better. That's a good report.
Yeah, it's a great report.
All right.
What else did you want to know?
What are you giving away? Oh, we just talked about that during the pre-game warm-up. You're giving away the 10mm sockets from Russell Waters and some stickers, and we'll talk more about that. Keep sharing the show. And we'll be giving away a lot of cool stuff a little bit later on. In the meantime, I want to thank our sponsors, Racer X, the International Motocross Museum, Motion Pro, Vinco, Sirius Studios, Bultaco East, and Steve Grandis, Preston Petty Products, Full Circle Racing Limited. If you want to make a contribution to the show, in the show description, the first thing you see is a link, a PayPal link. You can go there, click on the link. Any amount at all helps us produce the show. $10, $50, whatever it may be, $5. Whatever you feel is on your heart to give us, we would always appreciate it. Thank you, Steve Wise and MotoFellowship.com. It was an excellent show last night. I watch it every Tuesday at 5:30 on Facebook, Moto Fellowship. And, of course, Roger Neff, he's got a real good video coming up a little bit later on again. Roger Neff and Brab Suspension. Thank you to my boots on the ground, the guys who make this all happen, a couple of bucks at a time, and through sharing it and buying shirts, here's their names on the list, and there's a whole new list behind me. Isn't there? Yeah. Oh, yeah, there is a whole new list behind me if I do this. Yeah. There it is, over my head. You can't miss it. Hey, Dave Boyden at AMS, one of the most popular guys on the vintage circuit ever. He's been a coordinator, puts on a lot of races. Follow Dave Boyden on Facebook. We have Dave's Classic Corner coming up a little bit later on. And as I mentioned just a moment ago, the grand one, Steve Grandis. Bultaco East, we have a special coming up a little bit later, and we'll tell you about last week's special too. Steve has posted some special things up there just for our Vintage Motocross Q&A viewers. Don't forget, keep sharing the show. Hey, do you have a Vintage Motocross Q&A shirt? They come in white, black, gray. I can make them in any color you want. Actually, long sleeve or short. I can even make it in a turtleneck, a scoop neck, a French sleeve. You name it. We've got them all. Tank tops, too. Yeah, we've got them all here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. What do you got, Sue? Aprons?
Aprons, and I have that beautiful cartoon.
Here's the cartoon. I got up on the thing now. Alan Huie just bought one.
Yeah, I've got some pictures of it. They came out so.
Yeah, they come out pretty good. So
They're not really good.
whether you want, and I need to get a little more active with the hats and cups and stuff like that. But we do have a lot of cool stuff. We mentioned sharing the show. Paul Stannard, I'm going to give you the week off. You're not going to have to send any Preston Petty grips. We're going to have Russell Waters take care of our viewer appreciation prize this week. Right now, I want to get into a video that we shared. That's been a couple of months, but it was from Jerry Maddox, and it has to do with running rich or running lean, how you can understand and describe it if someone is listening. Many times it's kind of lost in translation, or people have different ideas of what lean and rich actually mean. And they think sometimes more oil is better. Anyway, let's take a look at this video from Jerry Maddox. It's a couple minutes long, but this is the perfect time of year to do it because it discusses the weather too and certain conditions. Let's see what Jerry has to say. Him and his son. It was more sponsored by Moto.
Hey Dad, what are you doing?
I'm jetting your bike so it'll be really fast and really cool.
He's trying to look fast and cool too. Dad, could you explain jetting for us dumb kids to know how it works?
All right, kids, watch this. Take that out, put that in, try that.
You know what? I am going to start the video again. I don't like the way this is running. It's running a little slow. It's got a little bit of a lag. And you people who tune in for a show, I don't want it to look like the original Godzilla where the words don't match the lips. Okay. So let's remove this from the studios for the time being. And let's re-present it one more time. See how it turns out. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. And here we go, Jerry.
Hey Dad, what are you doing?
I'm jetting your bike so it'll be really fast and really cool.
He's trying to look fast and cool too. Dad, could you explain jetting for us dumb kids to know how it works?
All right, kids, watch this. Take that out, put that in, try that.
Can't get enough.
That's right, that's lean. Okay, now I want you to try this big fat. That's what being rich feels like. All right, now try this one. How's that one?
It's pretty good.
That's perfect jetting. Now, watch this, guys. Try that.
I can't get enough. I'm only getting air.
That's an intake manifold leak. There is your jetting 101. Hey guys, as you can see, I really enjoy teaching the kids about jetting. We use fun techniques to show how important it is. For the rest of the free speaking world, we have to be a little bit more serious about it. I get accused a lot at the races of messing with my carburetor so much that they wonder what I'm doing all the time. The fact is, I rejet my bike every race, sometimes in between motos. It's that critical. Now today I don't really want to talk about how to jet, just mostly what you need to know before you start taking your bike out and trying to do the best you can without tearing the motorcycle up. First and foremost, when I'm headed to a race, the first thing I do is I look at what altitude am I at. Am I at sea level down in Florida? Am I up in the mountains of Colorado? Am I somewhere out in the Arizona desert? Am I in New York? Because I've been to all of them this year. And the fact of the matter is air density changes as you go up and down, so must your jetting. So technically it works like this. If we're going to go down south, we're going to race in Florida, we're likely going to be in the sand, and we're very likely going to be sea level altitude. So we're going to want to richen up the jetting. on our bikes. We want to change those main jets out, maybe sometimes 1 and 2 sizes bigger. In my case, I've gone as much as 4 sizes bigger to get the bike happy. So again, in theory, the altitude drops, the jetting goes up, or a richer setting. Now, how do you know when you're too rich or too lean? Okay? For me, you know, everybody's talked about doing plug checks, the color of your plug. That is very critical. It is. But for me, I've become a bit of an Elsinore whisperer. I listen to my bike. I can tell the second we go onto the track if it's rich or lean. And I can hear your bike too. And so since I go out with a little bit of foreground knowledge, knowing what's going to happen, what my altitude is, what things are happening, you know, I can kind of get my jetting close. But to dial it in, I listen. And before I even go into that, I always err on the side of safety first. And by safety, I mean my engine safety. I will always run a tad rich. I will, even if it means just that little lack of performance, just that little bit. Because in vintage racing, guys, you want to be national champion, you must finish the race. Every time. Must do every time. So, but instead, it's a nice day. Now, how do I know? Here's one of the best kept secrets in the world. And it's not necessarily a good one. If your bike's running the best you think it's ever run in its life, it's probably about to blow up. That's where the old cliche came from. Hey, it was running good right before it blew up. Well, of course it was, because your bike was so lean that fuel air mixture was going in at a velocity that just made that bike run fast. But without the fuel mixture coming in, you don't have any lubricant and you don't have any cooling. You see, on an air-cooled engine, the motor must receive its lubricant from the premixed gas, and the more fuel that you can push into that air mixture, the cooler that bike will run. And heat is your enemy, particularly on a 125. So going back to that, we want to run our mixture as rich as we can to flood the engine with as much fuel as your engine can take. How do I know when mine's right? The day before the race, I'll go do a test run. I'll either go onto the track or I'll go out somewhere where I can run the bike to full RPM and I'll listen to it. And if it's just gurgling, hiccuping, spitting, and coughing, I know I'm too rich. I'm basically choking the bike out. So I drop my main jet until that condition stops, and I'll go down one size at a time. So when I drop and I find that sweet spot, it's at that point, then I start doing my plug color checking. I'll do a couple of high-speed runs with a throttle wide open, chop the kill button, and bring it in and take a look. And I'm looking for color in the plug. I don't want to see whites. I prefer not to see gray. I like to see a nice chocolate brown. With some of the high-tech racing fuels that we use today, it's really hard to get color sometimes. But if you can get outside of that gray zone and start darkening up that plug a little bit, you're getting good. So there's that part. Now, back to the atmosphere. Back to things that are happening around you. The things that you can't really control is the weather. So another trick is, I already said, if we go to low altitude and we have to richen the thing up, inversely, if we go to Colorado and we're racing at 5,000 feet, we have to lean that motorcycle out. So that main jet is going to drop a lot. Your pilot circuit may drop some, but that main jet is going to come way down and to compensate for the air. But it's not just how high you are, how low you are, it's the temperature of the day. So if you're really cold, maybe you're down into the 40s, you're going to have to richen that engine up. And if you're up at 100 degrees, you're going to have to lean the engine out. True story. Just a few weeks ago, I found myself in Texas on the hottest day of the year, I do believe. And I went out in the Moto and literally felt my jetting change in the middle of the Moto. As the temperature was climbing through the morning, the jetting was being adjusted. So when I started out the Moto, it was pretty good. But by the end of the Moto, the bike was spitting and sputtering. It had taken on a rich condition. Not only can that happen during a race, but it can happen between motos, and it will certainly happen between races. So one of my ending stories is, or one of my ending comments and or advice is, don't take your bike for granted race to race. Rejet every race, or at the very least retest everything before every race. Take notes. If you're traveling around the country like we do, take notes to where you are so next year it'll be a little easier to get you a good baseline. But I have friends come up to me and they go, I don't understand why my bike's not running good today. It ran perfect last week. Well, last week you're in California. This week you're in Texas. Next week you're going to be in New York. That is the reason why. So it's mission critical, guys, that we make sure our jetting is spot on. Not only every race, every moto. Thank you very much. Man, I hope you have a great day. If I can ever help you in any way, please reach out to me. I have a lot of knowledge on jetting, ignition, timing, compression, things like that that can make your 125 run a lot better. I'm an open book to anybody that cares to ask. Have a great day, and I appreciate you.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A.
I'm Brock Glover, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and we'll be right back.
Vinco, who already has a full line of vintage parts, now has air shocks that are an exact duplicate of the original air shocks so popular in the late 70s. So whether you're looking to build a full racer or museum showpiece, these shocks will give you that incredible 70s look and improve your bike's performance. These new air shocks are fully rebuildable with Vinco rebuild kits, and all shocks are hand assembled in the USA with all new components. Every component is brand new. Just like the originals, our air shocks are adjustable with 2 chambers, high and low pressure, giving you tremendous flexibility for settings of your bike suspension. The Vinco air shocks come fully assembled and ready for installation. Just add air or nitrogen. The kits include the manual and spacers. Visit Vinco.com to check out the air shocks and all that Vinco has to offer to help you get back on track and to keep that ride going.
Vinco, over 1,000 products in their catalog. Be sure to visit them online at Vinco.com. And don't forget, any order over $200 gets free shipping. That's Vinco.com. Thank you, Fred Hudgens from Derf, for all you do for us here at the show, sharing the show, and boring some cylinders out there in Missouri and helping all the locals. I also want to thank you for introducing me to Joey Sapienza, who is a pipe builder. And we're going to be talking more to Joe over the weekend and next Monday. And I think we have ourselves a pipe builder sponsor here on our show, Russell Waters from Amsoil. Thank you for the years of support and products you have supplied us with here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. What's it worth? This is brought to you by Full Circle Racing. This is, of course, a portion of the show where we encourage you to guess how much you think the bike recently sold for. We're going to give you some stickers like this. And you know what? Russell sent us a huge box of Amsoil things, and we're going to give away a couple of stickers too. Amsoil stickers, and and we've got the mag lights back in stock and all that stuff too. But right now, we're going to find out what's it worth. Tonight's bike is 1977 Honda CR 125M. This bike recently sold on Bring a Trailer, and it spent time with 2 owners prior to its recent purchase by the selling dealer. It is powered by a 123cc 2-stroke single paired with a 6-speed transmission, and it is finished in Tahitian red. The bike appears to be in very original condition. Equipment also includes wire spoke wheels, alloy rims, a black vinyl seat, an expansion chamber system with the original clunky large silencer on there. You don't see that too often anymore. A Kickstarter, number plates, key and carburetor, high-mounted fenders. It also has, it's finished in Tahitian red, as they mentioned a little bit earlier. It's got that red finished black frame, 123cc engine, a key and carburetor. It's got it says here upswept pipe. It's not. It's actually a downswept pipe. And as you can see, all the hardware and everything on this bike, if you look at that silencer, imagine that. You were able to take that thing right off and ride it just the way it was with just the internal silencer without that big boat hanger hanging over it. But here it is, and the bike does appear to be in exceptionally original condition. It's a good picture of the tank right here. Doesn't look like it has any dents, any extreme wear on it. Doesn't appear as if the bike has been raced to me. It does come with an owner's manual. It is offered for sale with just a bill of sale only. There is no title. And yeah, the shocks are original on that bike, and I do believe the tires are original. I'm not thinking that rear fender is, though. I just don't think that rear fender is real. The rest of it appears to be in pretty nice condition. If you've taken a look at the pictures as I've been scrolling through, those are the original bars, front number plate. While they're in not great condition, the fork gaiters, and I believe this year did come with red grips as well. So we've got an extremely original bike here, but to me, I would call it a tweener because I think it is between fairly decent original, but worthy of restoration. I mean, as time goes on, we are looking at a bike here that's coming up on 50 years old. It probably would be left or best to leave it as is. Anyway, what do you think this bike recently sold for? $5,000, $6,000, $8,000. And I say this from the heart. Some poor slob paid $9,000 for this bike.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. If it were a 1974 in this condition, I could see $9,000. A 77 or a 78, the highest year of production, not the greatest performers. They would get beat every week in stock, even slightly modified condition by Yamahas and certainly Suzuki's. $9,000. The seller is laughing all the way to the bank. Who got closest to without going over? Nobody. I mean, nobody's even within $3,000.
Well, George Camacho guessed 8,000.
I will give the stickers to George Camacho because
That's the closest. I mean, everybody else was under, like, way under.
George Camacho, send me on my personal page a private message. Send me your mailing address, and I will get you stickers, compliments of Vintage Motocross Q&A and Amsoil. Thank you, everyone, for playing along. $9,000 is absurd for a 1977. That, of course, is brought to you by Full Circle Racing. Be sure to see my friend Tom McAllister, whether it's for Yamahas, Honda, Suzuki, CZs, you name it. If it goes round on two wheels and has spokes, Tom McAllister will hook you right up. In fact, we are going to take a short commercial break right now, and we will be back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A in just a minute. This is the, we got a nice little commercial from, this guy, he's Jerry Maddox. He's really helped us a lot here on the show in the past, and he's helped us quite a bit, and he's even done some commercials for us. But what do you call it? Is a sponsor. Full Circle is a sponsor for Jerry.
I get asked often, what's the most important thing on Clunker? Answer simple, it's me. That's why I use Full Circle Racing wheels prepped by Tom McAllister. So should you. Watch this and learn why. When racing vintage motocross where suspension is very limited, your wheels can be the difference between winning or serious injury. We chose to run Full Circle Racing wheels because of the super high quality materials and the heavy duty spokes used. Prepped by Tom McAllister, I have the confidence on the track to push way harder through the rough stuff and the bigger jumps, knowing my wheels are going to stay under me. Hey, Clunker may be 50 years old, but his wheels are brand new, and yours should be too. Call Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing today.
Thank you, Jerry Maddox and Tom McAllister, for all you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A, a new segment that we have on the show every week, Dave's Classic Corner. This is, of course, brought to you by Dave Boydston and AMS. Don't forget to follow Dave Boydston on Facebook. That's where you're going to see a lot of cool stuff that Dave puts out from day to day. And Dave's been out there with his little phone. He's been at swap meets and he's been at car shows and just does a lot out there with some live videos. And in the meantime, Dave has found time to give us some really good content here at the show, things you're not going to see every day when it comes to certain motorcycles, big old 4-strokes and 2-strokes and flat trackers, just all kinds of great stuff like that. And he sent in to us one this week. It's a BSA in a Rickman frame. And I think you're really going to get a kick out of this once we get it here to the stage. Here we go.
Collection. This one is a pre-unit. Pre-unit's around 1962, 61 or earlier engine. This is single carburetor, So it'd also be a TR6 kind of a single carb head on it. This one has Rickman hub on the back and a matchless hub on the front. The progressive shocks on it. The trick little Rickman pipe that we wove its way through the frame and came out down there. Rickman hubs. A tire that would definitely throw some dirt. This is a BSA primary cover, just like it's on the Gold Star, and they welded the foot peg on it, very much like Clues did. Narrow the bike up a little bit. It's got Cheriani forks on it, and that matchless hub. There's a Bosch Racing Magneto in there. Big, thick engine plates. This is a lot of horsepower in this bike. Nickel-plated frame original. This bike was bought at the Bike Bonanza in England and built by an Englishman, and this is a different transmission than the bike would normally have. Sonny Nutter was the first one to point this out. See how the foot pegs are also mounted to the engine cases, not the frame? In that 44, we figured out what it is. 44 means this is 750 cc's. So it's got a 750 kit on it. All glass body work, Le Mans, quick opening cap, quick fill cap. A lever just a little out of place. Total period racer right here. Around 300 pounds, 750 cc's, probably a real 50 horsepower spinning that back tire. Premier Open Twins bike. Oldest, most powerful class in vintage racing right here. See a group of these guys come off the line together. It's really something to watch. Lots of noise, lots of dirt flying. Have a great day. Right on.
Dave Boyden. I love the videos that he sends into us. They are absolutely phenomenal. Imagine wrestling a bike like that, 750 cc's. What do you say, 50 horsepower? In that Rickman frame. Imagine bouncing around on that for two 40-minute motos. Those are mighty men who did things like that. Okay, Dave Boyden, I think I mentioned it. We got his phone number on here? Yeah, we got Dave's number here, 480-610-4574. Get a hold of Dave Boyden and AMS. We got a Moto Showcase coming up right now, and that's brought to you by Preston Petty Products. I've got something really cool for you that was sent in at the last minute by an old friend. His name is John Ulver, and I say he's an old friend, and I'm going to tell you why. Just a quick story. We're all been into this vintage motocross game for at least 25 years, right? We all got a computer back in 1998, 99. We got online. We made friends. John was like the first friend I made online. I didn't know what instant messaging was, and it was AOL back then, and you had dial-up. Anyway, John was really nice to me, told me about some vintage motocross pages. Eventually, we became friends. We talk on the phone. I bought a KX250 from him that I still have. And one day, he told me that his wife and her business partner were visiting in New York. We lived just across the bridge in New Jersey, and I actually got to meet John's wonderful wife, Valerie. I think she stayed over at our house with her friend, and it's just been a very long friendship with a good guy, John Ulver. Now that I told you about that, let me tell you about this amazing Hodaka that John sent in. He's got a Harry Taylor Hodaka here. If you know Harry Taylor, his name is synonymous with the word Hodaka. Hodaka, of course, was in business from 1964 to 1978. They made 150,000 motorcycles. Pabatco is a company that was up there in Oregon. It was actually owned by Shell at that time. And I learned today that Hodaka, the word Hodaka, actually meant grow tall. It was named after a mountain that was near there, Hodaka, grow tall. Sounds Japanese. Perhaps that is my Japanese name, grow taller. But I digress. John says that he bought this Hodaka Wolverine from Harry Taylor himself in 1998 with the promise that he'd race it and prove that it was an Elsinore beater. It's a prototype that Harry built, and he then made copies of it, everything to build for Paul Standard and let Greg Bastick race that bike. I'll tell you a a story about that at the end of this too. Anyway, somehow the bike was assembled for Greg, hadn't had any real shakedown time, and was quickly built, and it was destined it was destined to fail, which it did. It's not a Badger, it's a Wolverine. I'm fairly certain I was the one who came up with the name for that while Harry was building it. Harry and I took the Wolverine to its first race in Woodland, Washington, Vintage Days race event, and made its debut. We quickly found the stock clutch wasn't capable of handling 30 horsepower. Improper heat treating of factory parts was found to be the culprit. It started life as a 74 Super Combat 125. Harry claimed it was around 32 horsepower after he got finished with it. Harry built the entire bike, including the exhaust and super secret porting. It's got CR125 forks on it and a seat and tank. The frame and swing arm have been modified. Then I piloted it to several wins in an overall championship in the plus 30 Vintage Expert class in the 125 Vintage Expert Mickey Phase Indoor VMX in 1999. Valerie raced it a year later at Hodaka Days, and Jay Lale raced it a few years ago at Washington Park. It's an angry machine, and it flat hauls ass. Here is a picture of the trophy that John Oliver won with that bike. And while I was snooping around, I found a picture of John and the lovely Valerie. It looks like Christmas time there in the great Northwest. Thank you, John Oliver. Now, John, you mentioned Greg Bastick had this bike. I don't remember what summer it was. I think I was racing nationals, or it may have been a rather big regional race. I had a YZ250 74. I would go to the line with all the confidence in the world that I was going to get a whole shot. And I did most every race. Bastick sits next to me on the line. It's combined moto, and he's on this 125 Wolverine. He got to the first turn before I did. I chased him like a dog chases a bone. I chased him that whole race. I could never catch him on that 125. That thing does haul ass. If it's putting out 32 horsepower, that's as much as a YZ250A any day. I can concur, and I can assure you that is one fast little 125. John, thank you so much for sending us that in at the last minute. I think I have your mailing address, John, but I'm going to send you some cool stuff from Amsoil for sending us that wonderful story and great bike. Thank you for your decades of friendship, John and Valerie. Over. Here's the problem. Got some good questions coming up tonight. They were just sent in to us this afternoon, and I'm going to get to them in just a second. But you know what I'm going to do first?
What?
I'm going to quench the fire.
Oh.
Hard work being a pronounsticator. Let's get to question one. Scott Barons, hot heat. Hi, Joe, I love your show. What's the best way to remove old decal glue from plastic? I use a heat gun to warm up the old decal. I use WD-40 to clean up the old glue. However, WD-40 is a sporty chore. Thank you, Scott Barons, number 77, Metropolitan Sports Committee, District 34, and a figure up there in 34 for many, many years. You're right. In the heat gun on a metal tank, you got to be careful on a plastic tank. And I would stay away from WD-40 on a plastic tank when trying to remove the glue. It sometimes makes it worse. Also, WD-40, it's kind of a kerosene-based liquid, not really great for plastic and rubber. It will break it down after a while. You know what I love to use? This stuff right here. 3M all-purpose adhesive cleaner. I'll tell you why I like to use it, Scott. I like to use it because 3M is a trusted name in the paint world. You've known them for years. They make prime, they make paint, they make clear coat, and all of their products are safe to use with their other products, okay? So if you have maybe a freshly painted tank, or not maybe fresh, but maybe it's an old paint job on there. You got a sticker you want to take off. You don't want to use alcohol. You don't want to use something that may harm the paint. Use this stuff right here, 3M. Also, it would be really, really good to use on plastic as well, as there are stickers these days on plastic bumpers of cars that have to be removed. Scott Barons, thank you so much for that question. Next question comes into Mike Sheets. You want a technical question? How about, can I remove the water jacket from the cylinder and head, then weld fins on it and make the engine air-cooled? You're scaring me a little with this question, Mike, but it is an unusual question, but I've seen something happen like this before, where someone posed this question or did something where they couldn't find a cylinder and they did something similar to this. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of ideas that you might want to check into, so you might want to reverse engineer your idea, because your idea is, while it's new that you want to use a liquid cylinder with fins on it, it's not really that new to use a liquid cylinder that has fins but has a radiator on the bike. Here's a 1981 KTM RV 125. Very cool bike. I owned one during one of my moments of, shall we say, being broke in the vintage motocross career that I've chosen. I had to sell it. Anyway, it is a twin shock liquid cooled bike. If you look up front, you'll see that there's a scoop up there underneath where the radiator would be on your Yamaha, but there's no radiator behind it. The radiator lays flat underneath the gas tank on this bike. This is a liquid cooled head and a liquid cooled cylinder on that Yamaha. You know what this is? That Bob Hanna's OW27. That is the first liquid cooled Yamaha, the OW27. And if you look there, you can see there are fins on it and there are water jackets surrounding the piston. This cylinder looks just like a regular YZ125C cylinder from the outside, except it does have the water jackets, and the head has fins on it too. Forgive me, I did not put up the picture of the head, but it's got the hoses that go in there, and it has water cooling. Now, I'm going to stay on this picture for a minute because I think it's going to tell us a lot about what we're talking about here, Mike. You could take all the time in the world and maybe laser jet, water jet the fins to whatever cylinder you want to weld the fins to. You could start off at the bottom and weld your way up, and by the time you got to the top, nobody's going to know the difference. You're going to have a cylinder that looks air-cooled. But those water jackets are no longer going to have water in them. How is the heat going to dissipate with that gap in there? Now, I don't really have the answer to that, but I'm thinking it's not a good scene. If they were filled in, but you're not going to do that, maybe the heat would dissipate through the piston, through the jack, through the what would be the cylinder liner, which would be the bore. But I mean, you're going to have a liner there that's an inch thick. I don't know what your objective is to using a water-cooled cylinder with air-cooled fins on it, unless you're trying to pull the maybe the wool over the eyes of someone. I don't know. Either way, those are my thoughts on that. Take a look at the KTM, the 1981. Maybe you can get a look at an engine, see what's going on in there. And if you go on the International Motocross Museum website, you'll see pictures of this bike. And if you don't, call me. Give me an email. I'll send you some pictures of it. I have some of that stuff too. Thank you both for sending in questions, Scott Barron and Mike Sheep. 20% off across the board at Motion Pro. When you check out, type in MP9135. That's MP9135. Russell Waters and Amsoil supplying us with all the lubricants and shop liquids that we need here, giving us a lot of cool stuff to give away too. Thank you, Russell Waters. Ever heard of? Have you ever heard of a Gabor? A Gabor. When I say Gabor, what do you think of? I know what you think of because you're old. Hubba, the Gabor sisters, Jaja and Ava Gabor. There was also a third sister. Her name was Jolie. I don't know why I know that. Actually, I do know why I know that, but that's not important right now. A Gabor, have you ever heard of it? Well, there it is. A Moto Gabor. There's a brief history on it, and it's so brief, very, very few people know anything about this bike. It was made in Italy. It was manufactured in 1977. It was built in Deauville. From 1977, all models were off-road. And it's a 75cc machine. It was built specifically for competition, which developed 13 horsepower at 9,300 RPMs. It took a third and fourth place in the Italian Enduro Championship in 1977. I imagine 1977, that's not too shabby. You probably had some Pentons in there. You probably had some serious iron in there. 77, you might have had some ITs, maybe some MRs, some factory bikes in there. Very, very impressive. This motorcycle had a double cradle, tubular chromoly steel frame, swing arm and suspension. It had dual gas shock absorbers from Marzocchi. But there you have it, a Gabor. Very interesting little bike. And, you know, this engine looks familiar too. And I couldn't put my finger on the name of it. Is it a Hero? Hiro? Maybe some of you guys out there who are a little more familiar with that type of thing might know. hero? If you know, type it in. We're going to take a short break, hear from our sponsor, the International Motocross Museum, whose shirt I have on tonight, the International Motocross Museum.
Motocross struck America, coming from Europe like a lightning bolt, striking the hearts and minds of people all across the country and the world. Battles of intense racing and cutting rivalries with loyalty to brands and heroes intensified as years of blood, sweat, and dirt flew through the minds of those memories of champions as they wrestled their machines through almost impossible tracks. But where are those past champions? And where are their bikes? Terry Good, an ex-pro motocross racer, has made it his life mission to honor these heroes and the bikes they rode to stardom. We raced, we rode, we lived and breathed motocross. Go back in time and relive those moments, now preserved for the first time ever in the world's first museum dedicated to the history of motocross. Our new building is in the gate. Help us get a great start and you can be part of history. Go to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org and become a part of our team.
The International Motocross Museum is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Be sure to get over to their website, internationalmotocrossmuseum.org. This is an old floor plan of the International Motocross Museum, something that was put together a little bit ago by Mike Secor, but I will be involved in a Zoom meeting on Friday morning, and that floor plan doesn't look like that anymore. It looks like something else, boy. And where do you see it? Coming down to the wire with the final floor plan and the layout of the International Motocross Museum, and it is really something special. At this point, I do want to thank a couple of people who are show supporters. Ben's Vintage Mini Bike Podcast. That's on the second Sunday every Wednesday. Sunday night, Ben's Vintage Mini Podcast, and that's Mini Bike Podcast, and that's on Facebook. Also, Sunrise Vapor Blasting and VasquezStuff.com. In a second, I'm going to get to our new sponsor, Steve Grandis, but Susie,
Yeah.
you said that who? I know who said. Dave Boyden.
Yeah, he's a hero, HIRO. When Penn couldn't get the hot rod motor, he threatened to go to someone else for motors. He built 6 or so Penn 125 heroes.
With the hero in it. Okay, Dave Boyden, thank you so much for that information. Yeah, HIRO, the hero. And I do remember a few patents having that. And that little bit of a dust up between, I guess it was Sachs and the Pens. Anyway, where was I? Steve Grandis. Got some great specials going on. Steve does at Bultaco East. Where's my Bultaco East thing? There it is. Bultaco East. Visit them at bultacoeast.com. You can click on the parts section on the website. Click on parts. Then you could scroll down and you'll see the VMXQ&A specials, okay? Steve Grandis' deals, everything he has for sale for Vintage Motocross Q&A viewers, shipping included with a deep discount. How deep? How's this? Hudgens shocks, 13.5 inches, very, very popular, 340 millimeters, got a 2-year warranty on them, regularly $279, $229.95, $229.95, shipping included. From Steve Grandis and Bultaco East. If you missed last week's special, it's another good one. A full set of McGregor controls. It's got the brake and clutch lever with the purchase, got the dust covers and the kill button. Regular price, $180. Vintage Motocross Q&A discount. Thank you, Steve Grandis, $145. Shipping included. I spoke with Steve today briefly. He says he may have to open up another location just from advertising here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thank you, Steve Grandis. We really do appreciate you coming on board and for all you do here the past month or so for Vintage Motocross Q&A. And big Preston Petty dealer, too. Always got a big setup at the York Swap Meet. We are now moving on to perhaps the the most in-depth, knowledgeable thing you'll ever hear on the internet today. It is brought to you by Jeff Kokoski, and it is, did you know? Did you know? And he wants to apologize to Russell Waters in advance. Did you know about viscosity? Last week, we talked about how physician Dr. John Ellis accidentally created the first motor oil, and he would go on to create the Valvoline Oil Company. But did you know how oil viscosity is determined? It's actually very simple. Here's the answer right here. I mean, look at that. Pretty much explains it, doesn't it? You got density, that's it. Viscosity is a measure of fluid's resistance to flow. In other words, water has a low viscosity at 1.0 centipoise, and honey has a higher viscosity at, looks like 12,200 centipoise. Now, I don't know what centipoise even is, but I know how thick honey is, and I do know how thin water is. Motor oil works by creating a thin layer of film between surfaces of adjacent moving parts. The layer of lubricating film reduces the friction between those parts, helps lubricate and dissipate heat. One of the most important properties of motor oil maintaining that lubrication film between the moving parts is its viscosity. Fundamentally, the viscosity must be high enough or thick enough to maintain the lubricating film, but low enough that oil can flow around the engine parts in all operating conditions. We talked about this one day when we were talking about viscosity of grease and how some people just think that grease is grease. Put it on your bearings and away you go. That's not true. There are different viscosities in grease too. And it applies the same way Jeff is telling us here about the viscosity. Anyway, the word viscosity surprisingly is derived from the Latin word viscum, which means mistletoe. The ancient Romans found that a thick glue-like substance resulted when mistletoe berries were crushed. The glue was so good that they actually spread it on small branches to trap birds. When you think of the word viscosity, it's sort of a relative term, and we all know that motor oil is less viscous than maple syrup, and that maple syrup is less viscous than honey. But scientists and engineers needed a better way to quantify the term viscosity. In viscosity is a measure of a fluid's friction as it flows. There are two ways to determine the viscosity. One way is to measure the fluid's flow resistance when it has an external force applied to it. That is known as dynamic viscosity. It is also called absolute viscosity. The other method is to determine the fluid's resistive flow if subjected to weight or gravity, and that is called kinetic viscosity. As it relates to motor oils, think of it this way. Dynamic oil viscosity is a property that determines the force needed to make lubricant flow, while the kinetic viscosity is the oil that is property that indicates how fast the lubricant flows from the force inside of an engine as it would apply. To illustrate another way, suppose you have a jar of honey and a jar of water fixed on the table. You put a spoon in the jar, you put a spoon in the honey. You know what's going to happen when you pull the spoon out of each one, how these liquids are going to react. In the same way, if you tip it to the side, you know how that's going to work as well. And that's the difference of kinematic energy and the dynamic energy. Yeah, since the honey flows out of the jar slower when compared to water, the honey has, of course, a higher kinematic viscosity. The SI unit or dynamic viscosity of Newton's second per square meter, but is frequently expressed in its equivalent forms Pascal second, and Poids is simply poise, named after French scientist Jean-Marie Poids-Dieu, who in 1840 developed equations related to blood and flow. In American ASTM standards, it is commonly expressed as centipoise, CP, which has 1/100th of a poise, similar to a centimeter being 1/100th of a meter. Conversely, the SI unit for kinetic viscosity is a square meter per second, but it's commonly listed as Stokes. Sir George Gabriel Stokes, an Irish-born physicist who developed fluid flow equations in 1845. To measure kinetic viscosity, a fluid moves through a tube via gravity, while dynamic viscosity is determined by pulling fluid through an open end of a tube with a known vacuum pressure. Next time, we'll continue our discussion on viscosity and talk about how motor oil can be multi-grade and what the viscosity index is. Jeffrey, perhaps you could tell us about bidet and what he invented.
What does that have to do with viscosity?
I don't know. It is a French name, and it does have to do with viscosity and kinetics and the washing. And Jeff, That was really, really interesting. I'm looking forward to part 2 on viscosity. Larry Winter, I sent you a message the other day, tell you to get me the video of the young man speaking about how you helped so many kids in the early days with racing. You are a very generous soul, Larry Winter. You started this company, Serious Studio. It is absolutely fabulous. I love the gear that they sell. Get over to seriousstudio.co and you will find out more about Serious Studio. You know what time it is? It's time for the expansion chamber. You know whose videos come in the expansion chamber? Brap Suspension. I am loving Brap Suspension, and we got something really cool today. We've all been there. We've all done it. Our springs are sacking out a little bit maybe on our vintage bikes or even a modern bike that had regular forks on it, not your upside down forks, but just a regular set of forks. So you couldn't get springs. The race was coming up. You were getting some sag, so you decided that you were going to make some spring preloads. Well, if you're still doing that, and a lot of guys still do it, here's some tips from Roger Neff about how to handle it properly next time you make a set for your bike.
Hey, Brappers, how you guys doing? We're in the Brap shop. This is going to be a short clip for the Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abbate, and that is when installing preload spacers on your fork, what are some important factors? Well, there's a couple. We're using PVC here. Not my favorite material, but it's just a preload spacer, so that's fine. But if you're going to do this, let's do a few things right. Number one, if you can see the angle of this preload spacer, imagine this is going to sit on your fork spring, right, and push against the fork cap. See how crooked that fork cap is? Bring this in here a little closer. See how crooked that is? What that is going to do is that's going to cause your spring, when it compresses, to kind of compress at an angle. So when you're making preload spacers, you got to get those square, and a great way to do that is just with a tubing cutter. This is how I cut a ton of stuff out here in the shop, tubing wise. But you get a nice straight cut. Measure your distance and cut it with something like this. Don't use a hacksaw. And the second thing, if you're going to do this, get rid of all the burrs. See the plastic burrs on there? Well, that's just going to get into your suspension components and cause problems. It's going to block passages. It's going to keep check valves open and get into shim stacks and stuff. So if you're going to make a preload spacer, let's do it a little better than this. This is a poor example. The other one's slightly better. You know, it's a little square, but it's important that these are square, meaning they're the same distance all the way around, so you don't have spring compression issues. Is it going to make a big deal? Probably not. Is it right? Definitely not. Is there a better way to do it? Yeah. Use the right tools. Or if you gotta cut it in a vise, you know, cut it against a flat surface, and then deburr it. You know, take a little file, take some sandpaper or something, and get these burrs off so you don't have the plastic shards going into your suspension system. Tips and tricks here with the Brap guy, the Brap shop. And you guys enjoy the rest of Joe's show. I'm gonna let this stuff sit over the evening. Come back out here in the morning and finish these forks up. Keep it brappy and enjoy the rest of the show, folks.
Roger Neff, keeping it brappy from the Brap shop. Hey, you know what I just discovered after doing the show for 5 years? You won't believe it. I discovered that I can see all the people that are watching the show. I don't usually do this because it blocks my screen of the things that are coming up. For Liberty, Robert Charles Lakides, Phil Liberty, Gig Haddad, Tyler McGregor, Richard Lotz, and so many more. I want to thank you guys for all watching the show. I saw Phil Liberty on here a little while ago. Kenneth Klaus, Russell Waters, George Kamat. Who?
You just realized it.
Well, no, I didn't just realize it, but I realized that I could look at it while I'm actually running a video. And then I could thank so many of the people like Alan Huie and Eric Weiss and so many more. Mike Conley, I hope you are enjoying retirement, my friend. Okay? So I'm able to say hello to all my buddies from around the country and some of them from around the world. Tom Ewing down in Naples, Florida, and everybody else who watches Vintage Motocross Q&A. Susie,
Yeah,
it is that time again.
it is.
We are giving away, what are you giving away tonight? Oh, that little
emergency for class.
There it is.
10mm socket. It's adorable.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
That would go to Tom Ewing.
Tom Ewing. Show it in the camera there, Susie. What's that thing look like?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. It looks like a little emergency thing where you break the glass. Tom Ewing.
It's adorable.
It really is. Tom Ewing, I've met you, actually. Met you at the, one of the International Motocross Museum fundraisers. And you've also been generous to us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. I would like to send you that little emergency kit for a 10mm socket. You'll have it in your garage or in your car anytime you need it. Tom Ewing, get me your mailing address and I will get that right out to you. Okay? What do we got coming up next? Oh, we're almost at the end of the show.
Yeah.
This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X Magazine, available on your newsstand now, or it's available online. We're going way back, 1949. Twin brothers, Don and Dan and Tom White are born. Together, they will have a huge influence on the American motorcycling industry as pioneers in the four-stroke movement, as well as the aftermarket business, which had their name attached to it, White Brothers. Both were inducted into the AMA Motorcycling Hall of Fame. Sadly, we lost Tom White in 2017. 1974, Baymare Cycle Park in Moore Park, California was home to a second round of the 1974 AMA National Motocross Championship. The Dutchman, Pierre Karsmakers, won the 250 class on a Yamaha, but was not given any points in the championship as the AMA decided that only U.S. citizens could count in the national championship. It was an unpopular rule, and it would be abolished after that season, though it cost Karsmakers a #1 plate. Finishing second was Husqvarna's Marty Tripes, followed by Honda CR250M Elsinore riders Billy Sugar Bear Grossi and the late Rich Eierstad. 1986, Team Honda's Rick Johnson won the Hangtown Classic in the 250 class over his teammate Johnny O'Mara and Yamaha's Brock Glover. Rounding out the top five were David Bailey and Jeff Ward. All five were multi-time champions and are now in the Motorcycle Hall of Fame. I could not find a really good picture of all of them together, so they did all ride for JT, and here's a great picture of them, along with some really other seriously talented guys, including Donnie Hansen, Chuck Sun, of course, the late Marty Smith, and Jim Gibson and Kent Howerton. And there you have it, this week in motocross history. Got some races coming up. My dear friend Mike P. back there in the East. They got ACR MX. Here's the 2025 schedule. Get over to ACR MX. They got a great website. Check them out. Check out all their races. Oh, and you know how you're going to remember you want to go to this website? You want to race at Unadilla? What about Southwick? How about Broome Tioga National Track? ACR races all those tracks throughout the season. Get over there. Be a part of the action. I want to congratulate Debbie Burnworth putting on a great race last weekend at Paris Raceway. A lot of giveaways. A lot of people showed up. Debbie, just a pillar of strength, her and her daughters. Going forward with the late Scott Burnworth's dream of having an MX Classic event in Southern California. Next one comes up, Verona MX. That happens on May 18th. I just can't wait for this. It's only a couple of weeks away. MMX Racing in Northern California, the original CZ World Championship. This brings in racers from all over the world. It happens on April 25th, 26th, and 27th. There is a class for everybody. It's a 2-day event. It's got the biggest bike show you have ever seen. And if you are not in the West Coast and you're out east, how about stopping by the Moto Barn? And they got the mini bike show and the mini moto barn and a swap meet. It all happens on April 26th from 10 to 4. There's free food. There's fun. There's no admission. That happens on County Line Church Road in Ruther Glen, Virginia. George Ackerman, always putting on a great show. He's a wonderful host. The Rocky Mountain National happens at another national track, Thunder Valley. Go check out the ARMA website for wherever their races are. But this is another one that if you're out in that Colorado area or you want to hit a national, why wouldn't you want to hit Thunder Valley? It's where the big guys ride. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are still available. I do want to thank Steve Grandis, our latest sponsor. I spoke to a great gentleman today who is about to fill in one of the biggest gaps there is in all the vintage motocross. He's a pipe builder. His name is Joey Sapienza. He's in Missouri. He's got a really great resume. He's worked for some other people before. I'm going to be talking to him a little bit more, but he has already, he's committed to bringing it to Vintage Motocross Q&A. So you're going to have a pipe builder who is supporting this show, who's going to listen to what you want.
Where are you gonna put them?
I'll get a bigger board. I'll do whatever I have to do. You know what? I won't even stay on screen. I'll just stay like this. You won't even see me on the show, and I'll put more signs up.
Well, you can put Vintage Motocross Q&A.
We'll figure something out. In the meantime, I do want to thank all of our sponsors who help support the show: Racer X International Motocross Museum, Motion Pro, Sirius Studios, Vintco, Boltaco East, Preston Petty Products, Full Circle, and don't forget, you want to send us a couple of bucks via PayPal. We always would appreciate that. Gino and Rocco are fighting about something. Can I get them in here or no?
Yeah.
Yeah? All right. Susie says we can get them in. So thank you for watching the show. Thank you for sharing it. Congratulations to our Tommy who?
Ewing.
Tom Ewing. You won the emergency 10 millimeter kit. Gino! Come here, Gene. There you go. What are you doing to your brother inside?
Big mouth.
Huh? That's it for Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Gene.